afternoon, good evening, good morning. Whatever time it is for you, I hope you are well. It is around, 8:20, 8:30 p.m. for me. I am at a campgrounds. I'm not camping. I just happen to live near. And I needed to get outside. Been getting cooped up too long. Kind of cool seeing the families out on a Thursday camping. I wonder if they've been here all week. I wonder if this is the first day of their weekend. For me, it is just a late getaway. It would be nice to just hear the nature, the birds, the whatever it was that was clacking wood over there. There's some large bird over there. It reminds me of a crane, but it's a little smaller. There was a crane or two out here I saw when I showed up. It's kind of nice just hearing the humanity around me, though. It's kind of nice. I don't have much to speak about, really. I just thought it would be cool, the visual of just floating around on a kayak. One thing that did come to mind, though, is Christ often would go off on his own into the nature around him, sometimes the desert, but I don't know if it was always the desert. And I wonder what it was that he would do out there, you know? I mean, to my knowledge, all we've been told is that he would go out there to pray. Oh goodness. That probably sounded fantastic. Can't prop the phone up any better, I apologize, but what does it mean, though, to go into the wilderness to pray? I imagine it doesn't mean pulling out your iPhone to record a video for your YouTube channel. I imagine it's not that. But then what is it? It's a shame I don't have a wider lens or something, perhaps a GoPro, because I'm surrounded by trees overhanging the water. I have with me some of the cheapest tobacco money can buy. It's $9 it's $8 and change for 16 ounces or something. And some of the nicer stuff, proper tobacco or pipe tobacco specifically, is probably in the ballpark is $3 an ounce. And up from there, of course, if I recall correctly. So for a pound, it's more like $80 versus 10 or so. So it's kind of some atrocious stuff, but it's just so cheap. It just kind of fills the slot. And when I first got it, I compared it to bad tea, like cheap tea. Whereas when I smoke a pipe, I typically want strong coffee. I want to smoke a campfire, which is a lot different than tea. But there you have it, I suppose. This is my grandpa's pipe, whilst cleaning out much rubbish. I found it. I have another of his pipes tucked away that I don't really smoke. It's a larger one. This is a Dr. Gerbo, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, a Grand Duke. And these aren't necessarily exquisite pipes. They're not very expensive, but it's very cool that it's his. And it replaced my corncob meerschaum pipe, which was my daily driver in my car for about a year before the bottom burnt out on it. I had just used it up. I was expecting it to swell and crack along the where your corn kernels would be, and it did swell, but the bottom was what gave out first, surprisingly. Perhaps I was cleaning it too aggressively, but it also put in a good run for me. Perhaps I should have brought my church warden. That may have been appropriate for boating in the countryside. Although if I were to go full Hobbit with the church warden, I think that would have called for a wooden canoe. And this is a very green, very plastic kayak. So I don't know. That would have been a bit, pretentious or a clash. It's silly how we worry about those things. When I suppose if a hobbit were here, would they perhaps be excited about a plastic molded kayak that they don't need to worry about the wood splitting or such? Would they just rock and roll with what they got? I imagine they would. I'm sure there would be those amongst them with the finer taste for things who would want a handcrafted kayak, canoe. I don't even know if wooden kayaks are a thing, honestly. A canoe, though, that's a beautiful thing, because instead of a single person ride, you can have a few friends tag along with you, as well as some accoutrements, some gear if you're fishing or just exploring, maybe getting to a far shore where you can pitch a tent, roast up some sausages, nice crispy bacon, some tomatoes, some potatoes, boil them, perhaps mash them, perhaps even stick them in a stew. I'm going over a tree. Goodness, so much more comfortable in a boat versus when you're swimming in an unexpected mossy tree touches your foot unexpectedly, or your hand as you're reaching out. That is, for me at least, an uncomfortable experience. There's not much else that actually makes me uncomfortable, or perhaps even scares me. Definitely scares me at times. Is the ideas of what is and what could be in the depths of not even substantially deep water. It doesn't take much depth for water to become interesting, and that makes me uncomfortable. I don't think that's thalassophobia, but there is a term for that, the fear of deep waters. And when it's clear water, that's a little different, when you can see what's below. But especially when it goes dark and the water's murky, and you go deep enough to where what was once warm water is suddenly very cold and very dark and very unknowable without some considerable effort, that makes me uncomfortable. I don't like that. I don't. And in some ways, that's a lot how we are with ourselves. There's levels to our psyche and our ego and our past, our memories, and all of that shenanigans, which people don't often like to go. They'd rather kind of tuck that away or pretend it's not even there and just float along on their dinghies, on their boats, and pretend that it's not there, and not look into the deep waters where once great trees grew and towered, where perhaps people once lived and had homes and families and memories and great plans and great accomplishments, and now are forgotten and waterlogged. There's a memorial bench over here, and they've always kind of interested me how there will be installed a relatively permanent bench with a name inscribed, and I've never once seen one of these benches and known the name. In loving memory of Mike and Julie Allman. Allman with 2 L's. Never once seen those and knew who that was for, what their memories were in relation to. Oh, that's atrocious. But they must have done something worthy of memory, some contribution to have a attempt at permanence placed in a place that I assume they cared about. beached my boat. I found a volleyball out here. Not bad condition. Tobacco does not make for a long smoke. It is certainly made for persons wanting to roll their own cigarettes. So it is very fine cut, very dry. There's a crane ahead that the wind is just torching that tobacco. There's a crane here who was here when I showed up, and he flew across here. Very tall birds. Right there. There he goes. What a beautiful bird. Off he goes. I got a little close for his comfort. I don't know if you can see him. Oh, he's gone. He's gone. If the birds and the other animals are given food and places to stay, how much more then will your Father in heaven, who cares for you, provide for you? I find that fascinating. fascinating birds. And I once watched, it was my last day at a machine shop, last day at a job. I watched a bird for probably 20 minutes. I should have been working, but it was my last day. And this bird bathed in a puddle in a parking lot, and then proceeded to stand there, just looking around for the whole time I watched him, just relaxing. And I found it fascinating, and I was a bit jealous of how in the moment this bird could be, and how carefree, because I had these stressors. I don't recall being overly stressed at the time, but I was moving from Canada back to the States, and that's considerable move, considerable drive. Everything I owned was going to be fitting, everything I was keeping was going to fit in our Chevy Impala and be driven back across the border for a 18-hour drive or whatever would it. No, it was like a 12-hour drive, I don't recall. But the bird was just chilling. Perhaps that's an example of what it is to go into the wilderness and pray. If it is, I like that example. That sounds peaceful. Well, we'll talk to you later.